Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Legislative Committee meeting of the Town of Vegreville, September 3rd. I call this meeting to order at 3 o'clock. I'll be looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Lemko makes that motion. Is there any additions or deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. I'll just let everybody know that Councillor Berry's not joining us today. He's had a prior commitment. So, next up, I'll get a motion to adopt the minutes of our last regular meeting. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Is there any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. So, our first delegation today are Corey Laniak and Robert Major, and they will be giving a presentation on the ND Minburn Foundation on behalf of the Building Committee. And I take it that, Corey, you're doing the presentation? Yes, sir. And you guys are the company, the consultants that are hired on this project? The architect from which company? JMA, there you go, JMAA Architecture. So come on up, Corey, and hopefully that we'll be able to make everything work here for you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to administration beside me that has had me ramble through the door and say I need help. And they did help, and we're up and running. So I'm here today on behalf of the Building Committee. Some of the councillors are involved with it, and as was mentioned, Robert Major is on the committee as well as the owner's rep. Just here to give you a short tour of the building plans that we have in place to date. So I'm going to start with those plans. Up on screen, councillors, we made printouts for you. They're with Councillor Lemko right now. It's exactly what you will see on those prints. We have an overall site plan view and second and third floor. So with that, the cat's kind of out of the bag with me stating that, is that we are looking at planning a 3-story facility on this site. We're going to have 66 units within it. It'll be built within the green space that is currently on site. So where we see all the color is all the new building that we're proposing to put up. And there is community or resident gardens out there right now, primarily just lawn, and there are a couple of units of senior self-contained right out front at the street, which will be removed with this development. The existing development is a portion that was built in the 20s and then a really old portion built around the 60s. It's the traditional Alberta Seniors Lodge Old U. They are coming down, as in being demolished across the province, because they are becoming much so end-of-life units. It was in fact filled in, so when I say Old U, the old plan used to be like this, and then it got filled in across the end. Our plan when we complete this site will be to remove this portion of building, leaving the central one that's central to this plan right now, and then building beside it. It'll be connected through a common space with a linked hallway, a firewall, separating effectively two building components that are one, but from a code perspective, they're two separate buildings with that firewall. The old building will remain as its C occupancy, and the new building will be built to modern code of B3 occupancy for seniors living. We will, as I said, have 66 units on site. They're comprised of traditional studio units, 1-bedroom units, and 2-bedroom units. A mix of each one of them, less so in the 2-bedroom units, but the committee has worked with a gentleman called Derek Weiss, who has kind of done financials and needs assessments for what type of units would fit and what becomes marketable, as well as what fits with a business case to kind of balance the capital with your future rent prospects and how that building would work. The main floor has a administration section through here, and I can zoom in on that. So front entrance, covered front entrance, parking will be extended across the lot. a main entry portion with offices, an elevator. There's another elevator down in the corner, so 2 elevators within the building. Family rooms, storage rooms, washrooms, dining area, new commercial kitchen. We will have a new mechanical and electrical room. This building, in essence, will be standalone. It's not going to feed from anything in the existing. It will be new to itself, and it might even do some, as of today, we walked around with the engineer, some backfeeding to solve some of the potential coming up in the near future issues with servicing of equipment and equipment going out of serviceability right around the corner that they saw. Here we just see layouts of 1-bedroom units. Here's a second elevator that I was talking about, access to the upper levels via stairs, of course, for code, and then rounding it out to the other end of the building, which are all studio units. I'm going to back out so we can see the whole picture kind of this wing. So we have been asked to, in a way, future-proof the design of this main floor wing to be capable of taking on higher level of care DSL components of DSL3 and DSL4 potentially in the future. That's not what the building will start with, but it has a very different design criteria to the one we're dealing with right now. If we didn't have that component, we wouldn't have to worry about a few things that are being planned in here. An extra multi-purpose room, an extra room in here that'll have to be removed in the future, but the DSL level of care is designed under a household mentality, a maximum of 14 residents together with a common dining room and a common lounge area so that they can become self-sufficient in the time of breakout of whatever it is, influenza or whatever may happen. And it is something that AHS would be involved with. It's a different level of care and a different dynamic of care, again, with very specific rules. So that's why we grouped a bunch of studio units here with this component that can be renovated in the future, along with the component that we added on the end. It was a tiny lounge at the end, and we just kind of made this design switch to allow for the remaining components that AHS would need. And none of you have seen this that have seen this before. Kind of an oxymoron, you haven't seen it before. But it allows for offices to be renovated into there, a reception area to be renovated into there, a small staff change room to be renovated into there. So we're building the footprint capable of taking on that full change. When the building first starts, that red, pink, whatever you want to call that color up there will just be an open lounge at the end. Could be carved up into a storage room as well, but the size will be capable of taking on that change. Out in the middle here, we have a courtyard area that can be some of the resident planters and stuff moved into here. It'll be a nice sheltered space that'll change. I'll be showing a walkthrough of the 3D renderings that we see on the side and then the current garden plots that we have over there. Second and third floor, nothing overly exciting going on. It's just kind of unit after unit after unit. It does have a few central areas of washroom and storage and lounge areas. Tub room on the second floor for the care, and the 2 elevators go up to all 3 levels, but not much to say about those except for unit after unit after unit to fill out the balance of our site. So we've went through multiple iterations of this. One of the biggest design concerns when we first started was the size and presence of this building on site. It's 3 stories. It's not something that's there right now. The middle portion of the facility is about 1.5 stories because it has an elevated atrium, but we're going up higher. And we've been wrestling with how to make this building kind of blend in the best it can, but it really is different to the community area. There's nothing like it, but this facility is in itself not like the community. It's a different kind of commercial entity, if I can say and term it that way. So I'm going to hop over and stick this into 3 dimensions and take us for a little drive around so we can see the presence of what this facility looks like. I'm just going to, jump back to the plan and start you so you can figure out where you are. I am going to be standing right over here on 46th Avenue. The town sort of ends over in this direction. as far as built form goes, and then I'm gonna be coming back around this way. I'll go up in the air and we'll get grounded as well, but. So to our right is the old U, the section that I said would come down. It's a single story, it's a low sloped roof, so its presence on site is minimal. There isn't much of a built form presence there. As we get towards the middle of the facility, what is kind of the new middle, it's the end of the facility right now. We see that second level atrium bump up and give the original building a bit more height and presence, and then we step up to our third floor piece. So when I was talking about wrestling with the elevation and trying to reduce its presence on site, it was elements like this where we kept this wing, the farthest one, as a single story wing, trying to step and build up to the third floor on this one with a porte cochere covered entry that you can drive under and park and get under the elements, and a deck up top. We've been utilizing roofs to break apart the elements as well as units bumping in and out to try and create some diminishing effects to the massing that is on site. In the middle, we see the courtyard. So this would be what would be redefined as the new principal entry. What we're seeing in the center of the screen currently right now is down the way and actually a little bit confusing as we check that out today with annunciator panels and stuff that are placed in the building. This side here would be that DSL entryway from the AHS aspect of things. I'm just going to pop ourselves up so that we can get an elevated view. So to the left, community gardens on site. There's still a fair bit of site left over on that side. And then I'll take you around to the back lane. We've got a number of opportunities on the upper levels, decks that break out. It's actually quite a nice spot to look out and over what will be over on this side. So beautiful space out here overlooking the rest of the green space. Nice place for residents or families that come and they need a breakout space to visit. But I'll take you into the back lane where we've got the single family dwellings juxtaposed against our larger building that's happening back here. So we went as a building committee on a few tours, buildings that I had done. They went to a building that was done by somebody else. We kind of referenced distance between a large building and single family residence. We built one in Innisfail where the building was basically pressed right up to the electrical poles for the distance from the residence. We didn't have any concerns or issues there. It seemed to be just, it's a fact of life. That piece of property is zoned the way it's zoned, and this is something that is appropriate to build. Here we see the stepping down, so the 2 to 3 levels going up here, articulation on the building face, but we're pressed off again quite a ways. We're standing on the lane that's back there right now, and the facility itself currently today actually has built a redundant lane to access the site, and that's the distance we've sort of kept the whole building structure off, because any of our commercial kitchen deliveries, the kitchen is being planned into that back corner. The block that we see right in our face is the existing garage. It won't stay there. It'll end up getting moved. So just taking us back up to this side to kind of see the built form again of the facility and the site. So I'll open it up to questions. I don't need to speak anymore on this. I can respond to any questions, concerns that you might have, ideas, and just open it to the floor.
So I guess I'll start. So where the kitchen and the dining area is today, what will that be? Just a common area?
So the kitchen and dining is in this section here
Yep.
today. Kitchen at the back. It will be effectively decommissioned from its purpose, but the building component itself will stay. We've recognized that from here to here is quite a nice portion of building, even though it's in the old building, and we believe that we can save that portion as common space. Kitchen would be renovated out, it'll go to the new building. So they have a boardroom right at this face of glass here.
Yep.
They have a deck outside there, and then they open. So again, just a common space, and we've been talking about how, when we remove this portion of building, what will it look like? And we're thinking of kind of cutting out what's underneath here and just having an open deck veranda as our end transition to this building, overlooking what will be a new substantial portion of green space until something else happens, which may or may not happen, but could.
I noticed in the back, there's no little outdoor building for the residents to smoke in. Did you guys consider that?
We haven't talked about smoking in any great detail yet. It can be something that we would discuss further as an item. That comes up from various, and it is very location dependent too. I find it happens more as you go north. In location, we've dealt with like actual indoor smoking rooms in Wabasca and stuff, because it's part of the culture, not just for like cigarettes, but like other portions as well. So if that is a need to program in, then yes, that's something we would kind of fit in there. But again, very on-site staff specific request of, is it a smoking gazebo? Is it a smoking room? Is it like, you're not smoking here? Because that does happen in some places. So it'll be a component that we would need to figure out.
Well, it's non-smoking inside. And then they built a little room out back that's not heated or anything, but
Yeah.
I know, just the,
Valid.
talking to the residents that are there the last 20 years,
And that's what it takes is, a valid question, and you kind of get that through the residents and then through the staff of what their vision for the facility is.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilor Reddy.
I wonder, just because you just asked about the kitchen, it's probably worth maybe just revisiting the age of the kitchen, and although it's currently serving all of the residents, what its original intention was. I don't know if that's better you or.
Yeah, so age of the kitchen right now is two things. Because it's still a component within the old U and the confines of the old U, it's small. It has gone through some renovations. There's a lot more freezers and coolers around there than we would actually normally see in an old U. So things have been shifted, things have been renovated. A storage room has became a freezer and cooler room and that kind of stuff. The kitchen itself is very small. It serves its stuff. It's a miracle for what staff does out of these facilities, with the equipment that they have and the size of what they have. So that's kind of a necessary component moving forward that I would say would be obliged to be renoed out. It's not something you would want to keep or consider keeping. It's a necessary move to make it change, because we will have a bit of a different demographic of care, and especially if the DSL 3 and 4 goes off, that actually means carting food over to that wing later. With the new equipment that goes into the kitchen, there's some amazing cooking tools to make meals and stuff for renovating a kitchen. So that's why the decision has been in here to move that component, because one could consider keeping it, but I think to the detriment of keeping it.
Go ahead.
Obviously, this is a rendering from the outside, so I'm not getting too specific about an inside, but this is just kind of a general ask. You mentioned 2 bedrooms. I didn't, actually anticipate or think about there being 2 bedroom spaces. So within those, is there the thought that there would be some cooking areas within it? I'm just wondering in comparison to like how big for the kitchen, just because I wasn't thinking that there would be 2 bedrooms at all.
You and me both. When I first started this, I didn't envision 2 bedrooms either. That's something that's come through the building committee, and then it was actually asked towards Derek when I was speaking, Derek Weiss, the money sort of aspect of it, because I don't normally see the 2 bedroom in a facility of this type. However, he said he's seeing it more, and he's seeing it as a very rentable unit. So it's kind of seen as a couples unit, but fully built out. Couples units can be handled either fully in a 2 bedroom unit or in having adjoining units with a door as a common way to kind of divide them up. So it did get introduced into here. There's only 6 of them, so there isn't a lot of them. And again, my question asked Derek was, can we rent this? And he said, absolutely, yes. So demand-wise and kind of feeding that capital versus rent model, the answer was fully endorsed as yes. To answer your question of kitchens, no, that is not something we're planning for them to be self-sustaining. Each unit will have a kitchenette, so it'll be a half kind of fridge with a sink and availability for a microwave plug. And again, the microwave plug dances on some, depending on the facility, of whether they let them use it, because it's hard with residents. Memory care aspects come into play with that. So those things go through it. The other part of it is the model that Derek Weiss is working on needs every unit in here to buy into the kitchen plan. It is a significant source of revenue in the rent model. So that's why the unit you might be referring to is a self-contained unit, where it's a full kitchen. You and I could cook in it and be more self-sufficient. That's not what is being designed in any of these units here.
Okay, so it is still considered a full lodge with full facility, just with different
And
options.
it needs
for-
to be because of the rent model.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anybody else?
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. You want to just put your hand up?
Yeah, and maybe that's to Councillor Warwa's question and just sort of follow up to my previous one too, is that this lodge style has been in the community for decades. And so this is largely what a lot of people see as the lodge format, but this is very different than some of the iterations that exist in other communities. So I think that's kind of where the building committee brought forward their suggestions. And then as a board, we talked about the need to transition to more revenue that we've done over the last couple of years has really changed the trajectory of being able to still meet our provincial mandate of providing subsidized housing, I guess is essentially what it is, but through the seniors housing, what is it, the LAP grant? Councillor Lemko, I can't think of the acronym right now, but the potential of being able to have it more appealing to residents that may currently not be considering it, and also recognizing that we've got a large contingent that are going to be needing this type of housing in short order. Being able to provide a variety of different housing options is both smart and necessary, because if we're going to be appealing to folks that can choose essentially where they want to live, basically what they're able to do is add on additional supports as they want them, but essentially be able to access a great place to live, which they currently do at the lodge, but also have more space, because most people now are not retiring from a big farm to a very small suite, which is currently the case. So we've been trying to build forward for that. And the kitchen that is currently there, I think, was meant to cook for 24 people. But because
Original U would have been, yes, approximately that, yeah.
yeah, so they've really been creative and been able to really create miracles out of that kitchen. I mean, it's a fantastic kitchen anyways, but really it's time, and it really is out of scope for what they're actually needing for space and being able to meet a modern senior.
And if I may add to that, when it was being mentioned about kind of retiring and moving into something like this, we are making different decisions, fine-tuned for Vegreville. And I find it specifically in more kind of rural urban centers where your largest catchment is somewhat coming from the rural surroundings, is what they're going to expect to move into. And it usually means larger, and it translates into larger. So that's some of the discussion on the 2-bedroom. That's some of the discussion on why we have so many 1-bedroom, because that too is atypical for what is would be built in, say, a Red Deer or an Edmonton or a Calgary. And then going further even into the studio units themselves, they are not designed to the minimum typical square footage. They have been bumped up to what Derek refers to as an enhanced studio. So an elevated rent model to it, but that's because we believe there's an elevated expectation of I'm not moving into the shoebox from my farm home, so.
Yeah, I think even Veg Senior Housing has taken, and started renovating into some of their suites into 2 bedrooms, just the simple fact that we're seeing more and more call for it and stuff. So again, it's all about being rentable, right? I mean, it has to make financial sense. Councillor Lemko.
Yes, Your Worship. my question through you is to our project manager, Robert. And what I'd like you to just enlighten council and administration as to the steps we've come to today and moving forward, what needs to be done before submission of our application to the government.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. To date, we've been following the business plan set forward by the Foundation Building Committee. We have not strayed from that original business plan, and the plans that we've developed with Corey and the team so far meet our business case. To date, we've retained our design team and we've investigated the site, not only from environmental review of the site, but also geotechnical. So out on site at the moment, you'll see some white posts where we've investigated the site. Today, actually earlier today, we met with some of our engineers, our engineering team, and did a tour of the site and are coming to some ideas around the future addition and connection back to the existing facility. So presently, we're through schematic design phase of the project. We've looked at 10, 11 options of the floor plan, and we've worked quite extensively with Corey to develop the plan that you see presented today. We took quite a bit of time to study the 2 and 3 floor model so that it fits within the neighborhood, and so the foundation has building committee has spent quite a bit of time on reviewing that, and we believe that it fits within the neighborhood well. While the drawing is not fully rendered out and in color, that will be our next step. So we will start the design development phase next. Our anticipation is to take it to about 25% of design development, put some more detail into the plans, have that costed in the near future so that we are aware of an order of magnitude by the end of September into October, and be prepared for an intake date from Alberta Housing, which we are presently not aware of. The dates have not been set, so we're working with Derek Weiss, the programming gentleman, to understand what that date will be, and he's keeping close contact with Alberta Housing to give us that date. But we're prepared at this point in time, or will be in the near future, to make that submission on behalf of the foundation. We're on schedule, as you would like to hear, and we're on budget.
Excellent. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Robert, and thank you to both of you who have come here today to just give us a snapshot of the work that's been done over the last year and a half to get to the point where we're prepared, close to submitting our application, and then our work starts after the submission to lobby our government for approval, as this is a beautiful facility and it will be here for a generation of seniors who are coming into a need for that service. So thank you for the work you've done with us, and thank you for coming today and doing that. An excellent presentation.
Go ahead, Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think it's the studio thing, especially when you're talking about the size, is amazing. I've just recently been in a position of having a parent moving into them. The difference in the ability for those size of those studio apartments changes it from them feeling like they're in a lodge room to actually feeling like they're in their own apartment. I'm just going to share the one thing that I found a bunch of seniors telling me when I was there, and that was they have a garage for their parking for their scooters, and they said it should be attached to the main building, because the one they're in is not attached, and they said, we have this wonderful space to go, but now we have to go outside and get to it from there. And they said, we sure wish it would have originally been accessible through the building. So
Underground parking.
Kind of like underground parking.
And one other question. You said the DSL care level 2, level 3 in that west of 4-1. So that's just a little more care, or we're,
Yes, sir. It's a higher level of care. It's one that involves AHS, so there's specifically a staffed nurse that ends up being in that middle area I was talking about, as well as AHS staff supervising that portion of the facility. It becomes a different operating model for those 14-unit wings.
okay, well, thank you both for the update and the work that you've done. And I know that our two committee members here, between Councillor Lemko and Councillor Rudick, that are very enthusiastic about this project, and it's something that needs to be done, and we will be taking that message to the ministers. So I hope there's any more questions. Okay, well, thank you both for coming today and for the work you've done so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, to Director Lefebvre, it'd be nice to share a business card with these gentlemen as they probably have some questions they want to fire back at you, and or their cards to you.
Well, Dale's away from going to that facility. Okay. I guess next up will be Manager Newton of the Protective Services. Are you ready to go, sir?
Apparently not.
Okay. Oh, you lost your wallet.
Thank you, Worship. This is a quarterly update for the two remaining projects that we still have for 2024. The Alberta First Responders Radio Communication System, simply known as AFRAX, is in the last stages of the project. Right now, we're just getting updated quotes. We had some issues with people on holidays over the summer, people with family needs, and people with work commitments, but we're on par. We're just waiting for two more quotes that are coming in this week. I've been promised by the manufacturer or the vendor, and our radio technician has provided us with their expertise and decided on which radio we're going to go with, and we're going to be moving ahead. We should have everything in place by the end of the month if everything works out in our favor.
You have the pricing already?
No, we're just waiting for the updated quote on the additional pricing for the radio that we went with. But we'd be on track from previous information we got. We just changed a few items there. With everything that we have for this year, including the donations that we received through third party, we'll be able to purchase 9 portable radios that'll cover most apparatuses in the fleet, so we'll be able to talk to our neighboring departments as they're going live.
And what about Vicky right in the office? She'll have something there too that she'll be able, or is it portable for her as well?
No, she won't be required to have that portable. This would be for interoperational with the
RCMP and...
Yeah, the RCMP, as well as our neighboring departments that have already gone to AFRAX or going to AFRAX.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, carry on, Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. The other item on our list today is the airbag system. Our last update was that we should be receiving it next week, and our vendor will be driving it out to us for the airbag system. Once we have that in our possession, we'll be training on it, and we expect to have that ready by the end of or beginning of the next quarter.
And then you'll start training with this airbag system?
That's correct, sir.
So this airbag system is more for use on the highway in certain situations, or?
Yeah, Your Worship, the airbag system, it would be mostly used in a extrication, but it also could be used in farm accidents, anything that we would have to do a heavy lift off something, or someone, unfortunately. But we had an airbag system that was in the fleet for a number of years. It was damaged a couple years ago, so this is a replacement for that.
Any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for the update.
Thank you, Your Worship. One thing to note that's not on your project sheet is we recently received a donation grant from the Global Medic Society, and we were able to get a skid unit for our pickup truck free and clear. So that'll be available once we determine some logistics regarding that. That'll be put on the apparatus so we can have an extra water source and pump source if required.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Now you're gonna give up the floor to the utilities manager. Hello, Jurgen, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody.
They don't always answer, but they mean
Yeah,
good
yeah.
afternoon.
First on my list for second quarter is our MCC and SCADA upgrade. This was started last year, basically. We finally got everything delivered beforehand. We were expecting it to be delivered in November, and it came in June. So there's a few extra parts to be ordered, and hopefully this month, we're gonna start replacing it out at our main reservoir. So this is basically the brains of the operation of the reservoir.
Just gonna jump in, just for a little addition onto that. We've done a lot of research on it. I know that the PLCs, programmable logic controllers, and then our pump systems, a variable frequency drive. We've tried them in the past, but it was technology that was probably 28 years old, and it wasn't working for us. So we had to go back to a relief valve system where the pressure gets up so high, then it dumps it back in the reservoir. And with the technology we have now, we're kind of happy that we're moving back to a variable frequency drive. 2 o'clock in the morning, the town's using 4 liters per
Next to
second,
nothing, yeah.
3 liters per second, almost nothing. So the pumps basically will ramp right down and sit at idle. And as demand comes, it'll rev itself back up slowly instead of a switch going bang and the pump's on full blast. So just the power savings on those demand times is gonna be a big improvement for us. So it's nice that the MCC, the cabinet has showed up. Some of this other equipment, like Jorgen says, still has to, but it's gonna take our lift station and take it to a 2024 system for our power savings and all those things that are important, more so now than ever, so a lot of work going into this. It's been a slow project, but it is coming. Stuff's starting to land.
So we're gonna wait until after the harvest rush, basically, because we'll have to shut down the truck fill, we have to shut down the reservoir. We have plans in place to keep pumps running for the town, but the bulk water part will be shut down. And unfortunately, we might have a few upset farmers, but it is what it is.
Any questions regarding that project? Go ahead.
I'll just ask that right now. Do you have an estimation of how long the bulk water would be shut down for, or an alternate plan for some of those folks?
Roughly 5 days.
Okay.
And there is options for other bulk water stations that aren't too terribly far
They,
away.
we could go to Mundare, Chipman.
So, Jurgen, would you say that we are gonna be able to get this done within what was in the budget, like so far?
According to the last numbers I have, yes.
Excellent.
Second is our our pump house valves. So our pump house is our secondary reservoir by the arena. Everything's on hold for now. My thinking is I want to get this MCC cabinet done first before we tackle that. I don't want to have too many projects involving water on the go at the same time. I've confirmed with the contractor, we're still on their list. Everybody's still aware of it. The divers are still aware. Once the MCC cabinet is installed and everything's up and running with that, then we're gonna start with our pump house valves.
All right, any questions? Looks good, keep rolling.
Number 3 is, we had to rebuild, pump 3 at our main sewer lift. So that'd be 2 out of the 3 pumps that had to be rebuilt. This one was 15 years in service. It had to be, it was time, it was done. That one, everything's completed. The pump is already installed and is back in service.
A little more money than
A
what?
little bit more money, but we had more internal damage than we thought from what we had. We used the first pump as a base, and maybe that was not what we should have done, but
Well, I think there's, when you're dealing with, trying to rebuild stuff today, everything is the cost. They'll always find a mistake. So this is at the main lift station by the cemetery?
by the cemetery, yes, sir.
And just how did we make out with the other pump, out at the west end of town there?
That is on my final
Oh,
comment.
sorry,
list.
that's fine. If it's in here, that's good. Any questions on this, pump number 3 that got rebuilt? Yeah, well, you know that comes directly out of, Public Works. When you're over 30 grand, it comes directly out of Public Works budget, not utilities, so you should be good.
Should be. And last is the reservoir cleaning. We had to do that every 5 to 7 years. We have to get them inspected and cleaned. And that is completed already. I believe the last time I was here, the divers had just shown up and they were just starting. So that was done back in March. And again, we went just a smidgen over budget. But we should be good now for another 7 years, give or take.
Jorgen was also able to marry up with other communities, so everybody was getting the reservoirs inspected, so that helped us
Bring the price down.
bring the price down on mileage and all the travel expenses, so that worked out well for us.
How long do you think it takes them to clean the reservoir?
It all depends how much junk is in the bottom. Lavoie, it took them, I'm gonna use Lavoie as an example, it took them probably about 4 days. I don't know when the last time the Lavoie Reservoir was cleaned, but there was substantial junk on the floor, and I've never been inside that one, but apparently they have like a tin ceiling, and over the years, all the chlorine and other stuff dissipating is starting to act on that tin, and that's falling into their water, and that has to come out now, and it all depends how bad it is. Our main reservoir in the west end was probably about 2 days, 2.5 days, but there was all just basically silt in there. It was just the size of it. It wasn't so much the material that they had to deal with, right?
Yeah, and over the last few years, we've had done some work, John Espatook on the line and stuff, and then when we get a blast, sometimes we get a lot of the silt being at
We
the
just
end.
happened to be the flush point.
Yeah,
Yep,
And the divers provide you with a bit of a report,
yes.
and obviously, the county admin received a report about Lavoie and the condition, right, so everybody's aware.
Everybody's aware of their own
Yeah.
circumstances, whatever they need.
their own dirty laundry.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is just a unofficial list. So our Northwest Sewer Lift pump, where are we here? The second pump is repaired and in service. Our third pump is still getting repaired though. They're having difficulty finding replacement parts. Again, the age of the pumps and the good old supply chain factor and all that stuff is just creating headaches for everybody involved. So far, everything's holding, so fingers crossed.
And they should hold for a while, there's 2 brand-new pumps in there, so,
Well, rebuilt.
rebuilt. Good rebuild.
Yeah, good rebuilt. In the past few months, my department has assisted Capital H2O with servicing and calibrating all the wall-mounted chlorine analyzers in the reservoirs. So that would be Innisfree, Mundare, Andrew. We don't have one here. We are hoping in the future to get one installed. So I helped them. Then we helped ClearTech. We had to go collect the handheld chlorine analyzers, and once a year they have to get serviced as well. So we went to Innisfree, same thing, Innisfree, Andrew, Lavoie. And Manville dropped theirs off, brought them here. The technician from Clear Tech Industries did what he did, then we took them all back.
And I just want to specify, even though we don't have an automatic chlorine analyzer on the town's Vegreville side, Edmonton does.
Edmonton
Where
does.
it drops in the reservoir, that they monitor always. And then our protocol is to take chlorine samples Monday to Friday, daily, every day there's a chlorine sample taken randomly throughout the distribution center. So it's not like we're not testing for it. We are, it's just in a different way.
And we send those off, or do we test them ourselves?
No, we test them ourselves. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I assisted the county decommissioned their Lavoie campground site. It's gone, there's no more. So they had to replace the CC, so I assisted them with that, and that's all done. We have 27 meters on our stopped list to be investigated and 2 meters on our skipped list to be changed out. So slowly, we are getting there.
Well, that's what it takes. Is there any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Riddick.
Thank you. I don't recall what the number was the previous time. Do we have
Geez,
an idea?
I don't have that.
Do you have an
in front of me.
idea of like what kind of percentage are we making our way through that list of?
Oh, yeah, we're definitely making our way through it. It's just, the stopped list is very hard to tackle because that's basically the snowbirds or the people who go away on vacation and the meter doesn't turn, so it pops up on a stopped list. So by the time I get there, the people are already home, everything's fine. The skipped list is the one I'm concentrating on, and we only have 2 left to be changed out. Those basically are the ones that do not read for a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time. Basically, the batteries are dead in the meter heads, so.
And remember, it's been not that long ago that we started with just about 2,500 meters to change the heads on because of this battery going dead problem, and now he's got 2 that showed up on this list. So we've installed over 2,000 meters in the last few years.
And I would imagine the company that was helping with their warranty program, they probably paid us a ton to do it. Yeah. Go ahead, Councilor.
Obviously, I appreciate this. I think that sometimes our water and sewer are things that get forgotten by the general public because it's easy to forget the things that you want but don't see the same way sometimes you'd see at parks or playground. I just thought it would be worth noting that as we were discussing going over with budget, just for the general public, the fact that like we're talking about an amount on a bigger project that is less than $1,000. So it's not a large, overview. Obviously, we like when you come in 1,000 under, but I just wanted to note that because it's not a large overage on the budget. My one question though was just in regards to Councilor Riddick had asked a little bit about our bulk water, and I know it's hard to know exactly when we are doing it, but what is, and this might go to administration, but what is our process for notification when our bulk water is down? Do we send emails to any of the holders or perfect deal?
Yeah, we worked with our communications department lately, and it works really well. And we've informed them this year when we thought we were going to have water restrictions and we're worried about the supply of water, that they were contacted. It was put out on our social media. You go on the town's website, click water, and the first thing that pops up is bulk water lanes 1, 2, and 3, and it's real time if they're open. Jorgen closes, say, 2 stations if he has to. He contacts Lane or Jameson, and they do it in a minute. So it's like boom. And when water's back on, we could open it up. It happens right now. So when they look at it, it's not like it's a 3-day-old post from Friday afternoon, and now it's Sunday. This is real time. So that's been working super good. Not that we've had to shut it down, but if we did, it's really easy to refer everybody there, and they can look at it anytime.
Because within that 5 days, we know there's a lot of acreage people, not just farmers that,
Well, hopefully, we can give enough advance notice that people can stock up and fill their cistern and have their tank full at the same time
yeah.
and tie them over, right?
Okay, any more questions for Jorgen? Okay, well, thanks for coming in, and it's nice to see that there's 2 meters left on that. Yeah. I would imagine we'll start a new list someday.
Probably next month, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, Director Lefebvre.
I have correspondence. I have correspondence that I know you have read. May as well read it as well. So let me get this up and happening. Dear members of Town Council, this is from Keon Ramianen, Operations Manager, Vegreville Hotel and Inn Limited. I hope this letter finds you well. I am writing on behalf of the Vegreville Hotel and Inn Limited to formally request the installation of a new storm sewer at the southeast corner of our property. Yeah, I'm just checking, because there was 2 letters sent. One correspondence that just talked about storm, and then the second one come that was sanitary and storm, and I'm making sure this is the right one, and it is. This request is driven by ongoing drainage issues that have been affecting our property for several years. Currently, our property relies on a surface drainage system, a shallow ditch along the southern boundary that collects runoff from a catch basin on 61st Street. This setup challenges drainage from the town right-of-way onto our private property, calibrating existing drainage problems and impacting the usability of our property as well as the surrounding area. In addition to these stormwater issues, we also face significant challenges with the adjacent sanitary sewer line. The sanitary sewer runs at a depth that is insufficient for functional use, which has led to Petro-Canada Station development having to rely on pumps to manage their sanitary needs. Unfortunately, these pumps, which are relatively new, have already failed several times. We anticipate that any future developments here may encounter similar difficulties if this issue is not addressed. We believe that addressing both the stormwater and the sanitary sewer issues together would offer several benefits. 1, improved drainage and sanitary management. Installing a new storm sewer system and resolving the depth issue with the existing sanitary sewer would alleviate current drainage and sanitation problems, ensuring reliable infrastructure for current and future developments. Number 2, support for development. Enhanced drainage and sanitary infrastructure would facilitate new development opportunities on our property and the surrounding area. This would increase property values, improve functionality, and contribute positively to the town's revenue. And number 3, public and private benefit. Effective management of both stormwater and sanitary needs would improve the overall infrastructure in the area, benefiting existing residential housing units to the south, future residential and commercial developments, and the Petro-Canada commercial hub. We kindly request that Town Council's support for the installation of a new storm sewer main and a review of the sanitary sewer depth issue. We believe these investments will have a substantial positive impact on both our property and the broader community. We appreciate the opportunity to discuss this matter further and explore potential solutions. Please feel free to contact me. Thank you for considering our request. We look forward to your positive response and to collaborating on these important issues. Signed, Keon Ramianen.
Okay, so we go to the map that was provided to us. So, as far as the storm sewer goes, Director Lefebvre, we have a right-of-way in there right now, a road allowance. Is that what it is?
We do. Can we get that up on the screen, Jameson? No? Okay,
Okay.
that's okay.
So, in his letter, Keon is suggesting that that road allowance is draining onto his property.
He is saying that a storm basin on 61st Street, which is by the townhouses, which is behind the Homesteader South, is draining into a right-of-way that is taking the water to the east to Maple Street, between the Wild Rose and the fourplex. There's those big trees that go through there, and that's actually, it's taking the surface water away. It's not doing a great job, but it's taking the water away.
But his letter suggests that that water drains to his property.
It suggests that, yeah.
But we know for a fact that that's not what is supposed to be happening there.
I would say the most of the portion of the water that's coming out that one catch basin into that drainage is probably not going onto his property. There is drainage issues on the site for sure. When Petro-Canada put in their storm system, they were able to tie into the corner of Maple Street and Highway 16A. and there was a manhole drop just outside of their boundary, putting it into Keon's property to try and give him an ability to try and manage some of it. But it's an awful big area, and one manhole in the far east end probably isn't going to do it all. The right-of-way is a road right-of-way that was never developed that I was talking about. That's between the Wild Rose Inn and the newer fourplex. And it's been overgrown with large trees for 50 years plus. So he's proposing that a new storm and sanitary line would come from the 3 developments he has. He's got it already subdivided, and run it behind his property, right where those trees are, and tie into Maple Street, which would then give him a good service. But there's a dollar tied to that. I don't know what that dollar is. And that's why the lots likely haven't developed in the last many years, because they have some challenges with developing, like the Petro-Canada has a sewer lift station to pump the sewer. The homesteader is currently serviced off of the east wing of rooms. So let's say you're walking into the front door of the homesteader to the left. At the end of that addition of rooms, that sewer and water are gravity, and they go towards those townhouses and tie in over there. It's a shorter run, minimal grade, but it's working. If he's gonna service, as you see, lot 1, 2, and 3, then there has to be some expansion to the system.
Or he drills underneath 16A and goes into the main line.
Yeah, and also to clarify, the water sewer lines are on the, well, we refer to as the highway over the Vegreville service road, if you will, is where those run. So you would have to, just like the Garski Center when it was built, the directional board underneath, and that's how they tied in the water and the sewer for that.
So even his lots on the very west end of his property, he would like to run all the sanitary to the east and come out between the Wild Rose.
That's correct.
It'd be so much easier for him just to drill underneath that road to a line that's there. I mean, we know that works, and we know the challenges that they seen at the Petrocount site. They had to put in their own little mini lift station to get it up, and I would imagine that was done based on the cost.
Yep.
But if he wants to sell these lots, why would he not run sanitary to the big line across the road where there's lots of grade? I mean, to write a letter saying that for some reason that him accessing the sewer line is because it's our fault because of the grade, but I don't understand why a developer would not just drill a line like everybody else would do and service it right in, like the Garski Center did.
Yeah, and the correspondence does say that he would like to discuss further, because in the correspondence sent, there's no dollar amount, there's no 50-50, there isn't. He's opening this up to say, hey, I want to talk to council about this development in more detail, is what I take it as.
Okay, so let's go back to the stormwater. If we were to use our road allowance, the right-of-way, to run, he would shape the rest of that whole site to drain, because it all sets low in the middle there now.
It sits low. He's proposing obviously an underground storm pipe system all the way through, not surface.
Okay. So where those trees are, for this to work, all those trees would have to come out of there.
If you're gonna put an underground storm pipe system in, absolutely.
And that's our property.
That's our road right of way.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions regarding the request here? Go ahead, Councilor Rudick.
We don't get these very often. I'm assuming Keon isn't on Economic Development Board anymore. He was on Economic Development for a long time.
We don't have one anymore.
Yes, so he wouldn't have contact with, I'm assuming he's directly contacted Infrastructure Planning and Development to talk with you about this prospect?
By email.
Okay. Okay. We don't get very many of these requests to council, so I guess at this point, we would respond with.
Well, I think that we'd be open to have a conversation, but as long as we all start at the same point that there is other alternatives. If he wants to develop this site and then the type of use he wants, going to the east through there to dig up that sanitary line and redo it all doesn't make any sense when you can just drain all your sanitary right across the road. I mean, we know it works there.
I'm thinking what he's doing is to manage his storm to go across the highway may have challenges. Maybe he's thinking because it kind of naturally on surface gets its way to the south, he's gonna put the storm line to the south, and then of course you use common trench, keep the water and sewer however far apart and one, you know what I mean? That, there's different reasons, I'm sure, but that's why he's not here to pitch this. I'm here reading the letter because it's addressed to council. And I think we need to have have him have an opportunity to come address council directly. That we are always willing to listen about development in our community, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, and again, to develop this property in the proper way a developer would do, they would address all the concerns on their property. I mean, then ask permission to drop into a manhole or a hook to a sewer line.
Yeah, we get approval for a stormwater management plan, a sanitation plan, that we would approve before the development would be approved.
Have we seen how he is going to, his sanitary on all three sites, and how he's gonna collect the storm water on this site when it's developed?
This is the first time I've seen a deep service proposal for this site.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Warwick.
Well, yeah, I would just say, I guess it is worth the conversation, because obviously we're trying to interpret a little bit. A little bit of my read here is when it says support, I don't know what exactly that means. Does it mean permission, or it could also be read as he's actually asking us to put in a brand new storm sewer main, which is a totally different ballgame. So I think, yeah, obviously we need a lot more information on it.
Well, again, I think that
Yeah.
having him to come in and clarify exactly what his ask is, and
Makes sense.
is everybody okay with that? Or you feel? Go ahead, Councilor Ridley.
Yeah, I guess the only thing it would be probably prudent to just, I don't know, so you haven't had a conversation with him, but it'd be probably helpful before he comes to do a presentation to council to just remind him that there are a few options, that there's not just, there's 4 directions. And that there are other utilities that he could access potentially that might be beneficial to his future development of those other lots.
He has hired an engineer, Schaefer Andrew Limited, which he didn't have before, and we have sent him our plans of the town. It's the area that show the water lines on the service road. They have seen that. This is not, we've given them information, so this is what his engineers come up with. And whether they go across the highway or they come back this way, as long as the grade's there and the drainage is fine and it doesn't affect anything negatively in the future, then we're fine with either way. Would be fine with the town. I would approve it. I mean, there are some nice lots there right on highway, so we're at the point in our community where there's not a lot of highway frontage left. So these all of a sudden become more desirable, and people go through the effort to develop a difficult development to make this happen.
Okay, so your department will arrange something, or we'll have?
Sure will. We'll get him here with a little more information, or what his ideas, and yeah, let him present to council.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Probably the next ledge. I think so.
Hopefully that works for him, or if that doesn't work, maybe a council meeting did.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Any more questions at all on that? Okay, Director Saskew, here we go.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wish I had more exciting stuff, but what I have here is 2025 ATCO franchise fees. We good? Yeah? Okay. Our franchise-free agreements with ATCO allows for annual change to the franchise-free percentage. Vegreville currently has a franchise fee rate of 33% for gas and 10% for electric. If the town wishes to amend the franchise fees, ATCO Gas must receive a request prior to October 15th, and ATCO Electric must receive a request prior to October 1st. The letters we receive from ATCO, those are the next two attachments, outline the projected franchise fee revenues at current rates for 2025. Below is a comparison of projected 2025 to 23 and 24 budget. 2025 projections remain stable, resulting in additional revenue of $24,000 for the town as compared to 2024. So they're comparable to prior years. Our current rate is 2% below max for ATCO Gas, and ATCO Electric, our current rate is 10%, and the max rate is 20. So every percentage that we add, that incremental revenue is what we would receive in additional revenue for each additional percentage point. So the financial implications of this is the town of Vegreville will budget 2025 franchise fees in accordance with council direction, and senior management in ATCO Gas and ATCO Electric will be informed of council's decision. So the options here are town council review the 2025 ATCO franchise free projections and provide recommendations for rate changes to administration, or town council review 2025 ATCO franchise fee projections and approve the recommendation to bring to the next council meeting for adoption.
Okay, who wants to start? Go ahead, Councilor Bullock.
I don't want to see any change on it at this moment.
I mean, I put it this way. Does anybody want to increase the franchise fee on gas or electric? I think we have a direction.
Thank you.
And can you explain what a franchise fee is so people know?
So a franchise fee is a percentage that they add to the bill, and then it comes back to the town. So it's like a user fee.
Actually, I thought a franchise fee is what ATCO or a utility company would pay to be the sole producer or utility person within a community. We don't have, you can't go get another company to sell you electricity in town. Well, sorry, that services the town with gas and electric. It's no different than another town may have a different utility company in there that does this. So to be exclusive to the town of Vegreville, we charge a fee to that company.
That is correct. That's the franchise fee component. So that's
Yes.
the rider, which is a flat percentage payable to the franchise municipality.
So just so everybody knows, they used to pay that to have the right to be the sole supplier in the community. But now it shows up on everybody's utilities bill, and they charge it back to every customer saying that's the money the town has taken from you. But in actual fact, it's their payment to be exclusive to the community. They now charge their customers that,
That's a good way to word it.
just so everybody knows. And ATCO is no different than the rest of them. They used to pay it years ago to be exclusive. Now they charge the customer and put it as the town fee. But in actual fact, it's their arrangement to be exclusive in the town. Just so everybody knows, I just thought I'd bring that up. Because people say, well, look what you guys are doing. Okay, so I guess the rest of it doesn't really matter. We're good where we're at. We know what for your budget, what your numbers will be. Excellent.
Correct.
Any other questions of Director Saskew? Okay, CAO Ling.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. First up is a letter from the Honorable Rick MacGyver. He's the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and the subject is the 2025 Fire Services Training Program Grant. Dear elected officials, it is my pleasure to announce that Municipal Affairs is providing $500,000 in grant funding for the 2025 Fire Services Training Program. The government recognizes the important work of fire services and that public safety is always a priority. While Municipal Affairs respects that fire services are a municipal responsibility, we also recognize that a strong provincial municipal partnership is key in keeping Albertans safe. This grant provides supplemental funding supports to assist Alberta communities in ensuring their local fire service are adequately trained to respond to identified community risks. Courses approved for delivery under this grant will align with the following key outcomes. Public safety is preserved in Alberta, community risk is effectively managed by local authorities, and firefighters are able to receive training in alignment with best practices. Grant information along with grant guidelines and application forms are available at this website. Please forward this information on to your chief administrative officers and fire chiefs so they may complete the application form. Collaboration involving multiple municipalities is permitted but not required. If you have any questions regarding the grant application or the program guidelines, feel free to contact Municipal Affairs. This grant program will assist fire departments across the province. Be prepared with the knowledge and skills to protect their communities. I look forward to reviewing your 2025 Fire Services Training Program submissions. Sincerely, Rick McIver. And this has been passed on to the Manager of Protective Services and the Fire Chief.
Any comment?
Just a question.
Councillor Bullock is in front of you.
One question I have is, were you successful in obtaining this grant before, or was it offered before?
I think we have in the past. I just got this in today, so it was a quick conversation in the hallway with Manager Newton. We're sure we have received funding on it before, but we'll have to check what year and if it was in the last couple of years.
Councillor Ward?
I think you should, CEO Ling primarily answered what I was gonna ask, just because you just got it, and I was just kind of wondering whether it was like a one-stop where you had to put in all of your asks together, or whether you could put in like multiple times for different programs, but if you just got it, that'll just be an aspect looking at, so, thank you.
So $500,000 to be offered between all the fire
All the fire
emergency
departments
in the
within Alberta.
province. What would a two-day training look like, cost-wise, for the town of Vegreville?
It depends on what they're training on. The costs can range anywhere from like $500 a day to $2,000 a day, depending on what they're doing, so.
2,000 a day.
Well, if you're doing,
That sounds reasonable, if you're taking a bunch of your firefighters and training them. There's 500,000 there, there's a lot of fire departments. We better get our name in early.
That's not alphabetical.
Go ahead, Councillor Lebko.
I believe there's a resolution put forth by, for the conference this September regarding the funding levels related to firefighter training. It was reinstated in 2022, I believe, and it was the same number, 500,000. Each member applying has a maximum of $10,000 to apply, and the resolution states that, which we seconded and will speak to, that we want that to be increased because of the high cost of inflation and training needs and all that. So there is a need to increase that number. Again, 500,000 amongst 200 and some fire departments doesn't go very far.
I would say that. Okay, so I guess we'll just receive and file this at the next council meeting.
yes.
Okay. Moving on to your next one.
The next item is a letter from the Vegreville Junior B Rangers. Dear Mr. Kuzmic and Town Council, I hope this letter finds you well. I am writing to you on behalf of the Vegreville Junior B Rangers to seek your support in celebrating a significant milestone for our organization. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Vegreville Junior B Rangers, and we are eager to commemorate this special occasion with a prominent display at our home rink. We respectfully request permission to have the Vegreville Junior B Rangers logo placed at center ice of the Vegreville Recreation Center for the duration of our anniversary season. This would not only honor our rich history, but enhance the sense of community pride and involvement in the celebrations. The center ice logo will serve as a fitting tribute to the dedication of our players, coaches, volunteers, and fans who have contributed to the success and longevity of our team over the past 5 decades. We believe that this display will foster a stronger connection between our team and the community, and we're excited for the opportunity to share this celebration with our supporters. Thank you for considering our proposal. We look forward to an opportunity to celebrate this milestone with the support of our beloved town. Should you require any additional information and you wish to discuss this request further, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for your time and support. Sincerely, Jim Nickel, President, Vegreville Junior B Rangers Hockey Club.
Okay, so I guess it's a moot point now, since the letter was received after the logo was already put in the ice.
Yes, due to the timing of the receipt of the letter, this matter was asked of council at in a different meeting format, and consensus was given for the logo to be placed within the center ice circle when they were putting the ice in this past weekend.
Can I ask a related, unrelated question?
As long as you're related.
Okay. Can you just confirm for us too, I'm sorry, this is related to their event, but not this ask. Unfortunately, I had seen on social media, and I didn't believe it to be the proper case, so if we can just clarify, they had asked for some assistance with ice cost, and there was a suggestion that it would, they should apply for the grant, but I had seen, unfortunately, on social media that the town council had rejected their request for ice, so can we just get a clarification on that part?
After there was the request where they, I think it was at the last legislative meeting or the one before that, where they asked for council's potential help with their ice fees. Council in turn requested that they apply for the sporting and event grant that is new this year to the Community Engagement and Economic Development Department. They applied for it and they were successful. They met all the criteria in that grant application, so they were a recipient of $1,500 for the grant.
Thank you. I thought that was the case. I just had seen that there was that, and I thought it was important to clarify to anyone who was watching that they weren't rejected, they were directed into a better spot. Okay.
Actually, yeah, it worked out to help them out more than just on the ice fees they were asking for.
Yes.
And do you know who had that up on Facebook? Was
It
it
was anonymous.
Anonymous?
Yes.
Seen that one coming.
That anonymous guy's fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway, just so everybody's
Thank you for the
watching.
clarification.
That was not the case at all, and they were very appreciative when they were told that they could apply for that grant, and it helped them out even more. So, Mr. Anonymous. Oh, it could be Mrs.
Mr. Anonymous.
I know it wasn't you. Go ahead, Councilor Rudy.
So I'll ask the question here because it was asked to me, and we've had some conversation about this before we could share it with the public. So there was some conversation about the center ice and direction of council to be able to have multiple user groups be recognized, asserting the fact that the facility is in fact owned by the town. And in fact owned by every citizen by extension in this community. So as council, my feeling is that it's important that everybody feel not only that it belongs to them, but they have access to it, whether they're the largest payer of the bills or the smallest payer of the bills, that whether you're a figure skater or a goalie, you're equally represented in that facility. So there are a number of contentious relationships that have taken place in the past, none of which has anything to do with council. Council's job is to act as governors for our facilities, and that includes the rec center. So I think maybe it's helpful at this point too, because this is a letter that's come to council that was via administration, received on August 20th, after some of these conversations may have been happening in the public domain, not at this table, but out in the community. So can you just clarify, CAO Ling, because it has been reported in local media as well as in some of the conversations that I've heard from folks that have a intense interest in what happens in our facilities for a number of different reasons, that what else will be on the ice for those of us that have not been in the facility?
At the Vegreville Minor Hockey logo is on the ice. The figure skaters were given an opportunity to put a logo on the ice, and I apologize, I haven't seen the ice surface, so I'm not fully sure what is on there. I don't know if the figure skaters purchased, because every department or every user group is responsible for their own logos. So if figure skating purchased one and handed it in, they will have a spot on the ice too. The Rangers have a logo, and of course we had the Vipers logo, except for they're taking a hiatus this year, so they're not in the ice, and that would be it. It would have been the 4 user groups.
And there will be no town.
There is no town logo. Unfortunately, there has been when all this discussion was happening, it became a side of the desk project for a couple different departments, and it was kind of a little bit late getting started. And once all the information and all the graphics and everything were together, at that point, it had already been announced that the Vipers would be taking a hiatus, because it only takes 3 weeks to get a logo. So we looked at it as a opportunity to save the funding and forego the Vegreville logo this year. That was a decision of administration, not of council, and we should have ordered the logo because council's direction was to order the logo.
Okay, so I don't believe figure skating spent any money, but
And honestly, I'm not sure. Like I said, I have not seen what is laid in the ice right now, so
but we do know that the Junior Bees had ordered a 50th anniversary logo, and it is right beside the center ice.
yes, it's not on center ice, it's in the circle.
Yep.
Like the center circle, just off to the home bench side.
Okay, any other questions?
Just more comment. Just because they're not cheap, we should just look forward as to what it, always be, even if we're talking with figure skating in the future, some people might be leery to order something if they think it's a 1-year deal, because they're not a cheap product. So there needs to be a consistency so we don't get put into these positions again. And obviously, I appreciate that conversation because, yeah, council gave the direction, so it really wasn't for anyone else to decide without coming back to us.
Okay. Okay, moving on, we have a new bylaw that we're looking at. An update to a bylaw.
This is a policy.
Okay,
Okay, so what is before council today is a draft video surveillance policy. So the background on this is the video surveillance cameras can be an effective tool to deter criminal activity and protect public property. Given the recent rise in vandalism, there has been an increased conversation regarding installing video surveillance cameras in key public areas. As a public body subject to the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act, we are obligated to reasonably balance the benefits of the public against the rights of the individual's privacy protection. The FOIP Guide to Using Surveillance Cameras in Public Areas recommends that public bodies installing surveillance cameras in public areas consider developing and implementing a policy for the operation of surveillance camera systems. The proposed policy has been developed based on these guidelines, the FOIP Act, and current practices. The attached draft policy establishes that the town of Vegreville may install surveillance cameras in public places where there is no reasonable expectation of privacy, that when possible, signage should be displayed notifying the public that they are in an area that's under surveillance, that prior to installing new cameras, managers and directors should consider all privacy aspects by completing a privacy impact assessment questionnaire included as Appendix A, and how personal information will be obtained, stored, and disclosed, and the general exclusions to this policy, including law enforcement purposes, job performance monitoring, or live streaming of council meetings. The financial implications. Implementing this policy has no direct financial implications. However, the cost to purchase and install new surveillance cameras would need to be approved by council in future budget planning. Communication strategy. If approved by council, this video surveillance policy will be shared on the town websites. All managers and directors will be informed of the approval, and the FOIP coordinator will be available to support senior management in the implementation of this policy. So the options before you today are that council may discuss the draft video surveillance policy at today's legislative committee meeting and approve the next council meeting on September 9th. Council may opt to discuss the draft video surveillance policy in depth at the next legislative committee meeting on September 17th prior to moving forward for approval, or council may decide to forego the draft policy and request that administration continue current practices without a formal policy.
Okay. Go ahead, start us up, Councillor Bullock.
After I read through it, and I still think number 2, I'd like to go through it some more. I'd like to talk about some of the problem areas we're having with vandalism, like the spray park is one of the big areas, and I do believe the egg park, and I do believe the new Rotary skate park experienced vandalism, and vandalism seems to be a big problem around town, so my hope would be that we discuss more in depth of maybe having a little more targeted on some of the areas that we're gonna be looking at for sure, like the spray park and some of our assets that attract people but are getting damaged for no apparent reason but ignorance.
But the problem with the policy says right in there that we have to identify right away that we now have a camera that's watching you. I mean, maybe some of these idiots won't be able to read, but. Yeah. I know, I know that we do need a policy because of FOIP request, and we need to live within those boundaries. I understand that. I've read it. There's a lot of questions being asked of each department, and just to get to the point where they could maybe have a camera someday. But again, I don't understand a lot to do with the FOIP. And I would imagine that Leslie and you guys put a lot of time into this, researching it, and I do appreciate it. But the fact that you have to notify people that you're trying to catch them on camera sucks. Councillor Rudick.
So I have 2 questions. As it stands right now, as Councillor Bullock has highlighted, we've had an increasing incidence of vandalism, but also an increasing cost. So I think as people are, potentially feeling hesitant, and we've heard recently from some folks that feel like there are some surveillance cameras in existence on some of our town assets. Maybe it's important for me to hear in this setting. We had budgeted a number of years ago for cameras to be used on some of our assets, and I know that turned into maybe a project that was a little bit more cumbersome and more difficult, so we don't have it at all of our locations, just as a few sites have been mentioned have had repeated vandalism, which is very time-consuming, costly, and a real travesty, especially since most of these places are highly utilized, very visible, and somehow still manage to have people ruining the experience for the people that are going to be there the next day. So my first question is, how far down the path have we gone with our previous budgeted allotment for cameras?
At this point, I'm not sure. I didn't go back and check into the dollar values that were put aside for this. Part of the issue why the project wasn't completed is because COVID. We were in the midst of getting our CCTV program in place, and then we had all the shutdowns for COVID. So there are some buildings that do have their cameras in place, and there are some that aren't. Excuse me if I don't name them. And it's just been picking up as we go along where we kind of need it. We haven't actually taken a whole look at pulling back out the program and taking a look at it. I think you have the number? So it's still 30,000. We still have 30,000 in the reserves from back before COVID.
Okay, yeah, and I guess that's helpful for me, just even to have a bit of a parameter when we start talking about this. I'm assuming this will come forward in the budget process. And the other thing I was just gonna say, like, I appreciate that there's a lot of thought into who's collecting the information, how it's being collected, you know, trying to answer all of these questions that are related to the collection of private information. I will say that I just had the personal experience where we had our vehicle vandalized at a public location, and that location destroyed the video camera footage before the police got back to us. So what it means is that the onus is on that party to cover the cost of anything that's damaged on their property and vandalized. So I just would want to be careful as the town that we have some kind of parameters. I'm just looking around the time frame, just because, again, this happened to us personally fairly recently, that you want to make sure that we have collection of this data with an eye line to protecting our assets, both in the immediate and the long term. So just wanted to flag that.
Thank you.
Actually, this is like a set of handcuffs. If you're trying to catch somebody. I mean, if you look at it, you need to identify that you have cameras, and they would be used to catch you if you're vandalizing. I mean, the whole thing, I know I get it. I certainly get it. That's not the way I would catch people. I would try a different approach, hiding the cameras and, you know, more so like that. But Councillor Curtis.
Thank you. I noticed the form, or it's quite extensive. Where we do have cameras currently, will we be doing one for what we have now, or are we grandfathering them in and they're good to go from the
For the most part, they'd likely be grandfathered in. They're already in place. Any changes that we would make to existing cameras, any expansions, or if we have done a renovation and a door has moved and we need to change the camera angle and stuff like that, we can definitely relook at some of this stuff.
just to make sure, so if we're identifying them, are there signs? Is it identified currently with?
Right now, every place we have cameras, we do have signs identifying that there are cameras on the facilities,
Okay, no,
that you
thank
may be under surveillance.
Do all the signs have to be in English? Doesn't say anything in the policy. Anyway, so we,
So, I understand exactly what you're saying about these ones, but I do actually think that regardless of the fact that it is maybe not the way we would like to catch some people, we aren't required to tell them where the cameras are or any of the rest of it. We're only required to put signage that says that there are cameras. And that sometimes can be effective on its own, but also, let's be clear, we're not going to put them in an easy spot. So if that's there, assume that we can catch you from any corner.
okay, so Councillor Bullock has made a suggestion that he would like to go with the option two. Council may opt to discuss the video surveillance policy in depth at the next Ledge Committee meeting on September the 7th. Everybody good with that, or do you want to be fine with that? Sure. So then I guess we'll go with option two right now.
Okay, and if I can ask, when council is reviewing the policy, if you have any questions, if you can email in your questions, and then we can have the answers for you that day.
That's very good. Okay. Looks like you may be done. Round table. Okay. Councillor Warba, what have you heard?
Well, I've been at the lake for a good chunk of time, so I'm just going to put that honestly out there. The only thing that I did hear was some slight concern as we're heading towards the fall again, and it was with seeing a few more people that maybe some individuals were feeling were homeless that are currently in locations and saying, you know, are we planning and what is the thoughts going into the winter? Because we know we're there. So that was certainly one, and it was mentioned multiple times that we do have an individual that is quite often at our location directly across from the ATB, as well as I know I had asked Edmund before about a site where someone had raised a concern to me where our campground, and that was a paid site, but it was brought to my attention again that it sort of does appear we have somebody that looks very long-term there. So that was the concern that was brought to me, is that we're heading into the fall and they feel like they're seeing a number of people in different locations and want us to, and from what the feedback I got from people, they do want us to continue on the path that we have, which is trying to do what we can to move them into communities that actually have the resources to be able to support them. But that's all I heard.
I know that some of the locations you reported is part of the daily trip around town for the officers. I mean, we can move them until, you know, they keep coming back, but as far as the one person downtown that sings a lot, and some people are actually liking what you're doing, but some people get nervous too, they just don't understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure that we do monitor the campground and along the river daily to make sure that we are not attracting, you know, like weak people, you know, coming and staying a week.
This has been brought to the attention of the VIC staff, and they have researched, and yes, there is one particular tenant there currently that has paid for the month, and the site may be the one that you're referring to, but it is paid for.
Perfect, thank you.
You should get a damage deposit. Councillor Bullock.
Thank you, Mayor. On my roundtable, actually, I had a couple phone calls regarding fees on the empty lots and stuff like that. So they'd point blank ask me, why are you charging us a fee? So I direct them to watch the meeting and talking about the fees, the flood mitigation fee for $6, the residential garbage fee for $9, the infrastructure replacement fee for $6, the sewer surcharge for $7, and the recycle fee for $8, and the service charge for $7. Those are the fees we're talking about on residential lots, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And on the commercial lots, that would just exclude the residential garbage charge, correct? Or nothing on the commercial?
Commercial lots, yes.
Okay. All right. I just wanted them to be clear on that and some of the questions they asked, because this contractor was not happy about, he's saying, speculating on buying lots. He didn't feel he had to pay the fee. So I explained to him about the sewer and this, and I said I would mention the fees that are going to be charged, just so everyone is aware. And that's what I had on that. And further to that, another phone call that I had, the taxpayers aren't paying for my funeral.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a bit of, the whole bylaw was never included in what they seen. What they seen was the name of a bylaw, but they never ever looked at it. But when it comes to this new utility bylaw, we are probably not going to be having second reading on it. What we're going to spend a little more time, Senior Min, on a classification on different lots. Farmland, for instance, there's some empty lots in town that don't have sidewalks and don't have water and sewer to them. And again, I mean, we borrow money for the flood mitigation, no matter what, every address is going to have to pay that. But there's other considerations that we need to look at. And then how we're going to bill, like, are we going to bill once a year on some of these lots? So I know that between CAO Ling and Director Saskew, they are looking at the different classifications and where we're going to be with that. So we'll wait for the second reading. There's been some input, as people have got a hold of the town. I mean, I've had some positive remarks too, where people are saying, finally, thank God. I mean, if they have an address, and why aren't they paying their share of the bills? So that's where we're at right now, so everybody knows. And there's gonna be, from where we started this, there's going to be how much, if you have farmland or you have lots that are not anywhere near a water or sewer or sidewalks or roads, at what point should you be paying for the, you know, if you don't have infrastructure in front of your property, should you be involved in that? So these are discussions, and it'll come as recommendations back to council, and we're gonna have a good discussions about how we move forward with that, so. Okay, Councillor Rudick.
I had a couple of spicy calls about that as well. But I've also had some great conversations with people. I was very happy to be able to volunteer at the library fundraiser. And I've had some conversations since that time too, of citizens that are concerned about the hours of operation of the library. So I will forward that on to the library board. Just because there aren't other public facilities to be able to provide tutoring, for example. So used to be that the library was open consistent hours every day. It's a highly utilized facility by some, including students and tutors, for example, but there isn't another alternative. So I will share that with council. But also had some good conversations with people that use the library, came to the fundraiser that I was not aware of, and really happy to see a number of people out and about there as well. Also had a conversation with somebody about their willingness or their desire to be participating in the budget process. And I said, well, we haven't done that. We've talked about this in the past, but they're feeling like a lot of the conversation that's happening in the community, whether it's just parts of council initiatives that are being taped onto their post boxes or notes that are being left in the central post office, they're seeing a lot more about council's activities that they disagree with only a partial picture of what actually happens here. I did encourage them to maybe provide feedback, but they asked if there was a way for public to engage in the budget process. And I said, I've talked about this in the past. We've got a few public engagement sessions coming forward with specific nod to recreation, for example, but we don't have other engagements with the public. So that just came as a question that I hadn't heard for a long time.
Administration has looked into a public participation piece for future budgeting processes. Unfortunately, if we run out of time very quickly because we're starting budget now on our end of it, and of course it'll come to council here in October. But it is something that is been discussed at the senior management table, and we're looking at ways of how we can collect this information, get their input and stuff like that. But it is something that it keeps bubbling up to the surface, and we're hoping to put something in place for 2025.
If I could just follow that up, I'm glad to hear that. I think maybe that had the tinge of anger affiliated with my ask, and that would be how it was delivered to me, that with what right does this table have to make decisions about how to spend people's money? And I guess it's probably a good time for people to think about that our job as council is to think about what's in the best interest for the public. And so, for example, the disappointment or the concern I had from people about the utility charges for empty lots ultimately is to reduce the cost for everybody. If everybody pays that has an affiliated usage, and I guess usage isn't even the right way, being prepared to be used, the stand ready for the utilities is something that we're talking about in the goal of making it more affordable for everybody, because up to this point we haven't looked at that. So I appreciate that the ultimate goal for all of us is to act in the best interest of the public, so.
There's been many communities, many municipalities that have gone forth with surveys, everything from strategic planning all the way to where do you see your community in 20 years type things. So that's kind of the avenue we've been looking on. But again, it takes a lot of preparation on administrative's part, and we just need to schedule it into the, and to find the time.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Curtis.
Thank you very much. I too have been away on some vacation there in August, and some of my interactions have been the same thing with regarding the utility fees and as well the billing insurance for the fire department, firefighting costs. And nice to see some people, not coming to defend, but also letting everybody know this isn't unique to this town. A lot of other towns have done it, and it's not meant to be a burden on any taxpayer, but to utilize the insurance and to recoup some of those costs that we incur when we do fight fires. So it's nice to see that in the community, other people getting involved, and that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Counselor Lemko.
Yes, Your Worship, I too had some inquiries regarding the funeral expenses and empty lots. I had one concerned citizen talk to me about the firefighting costs, and it was mentioned that they looked at the town's website and did mention 2 communities similar size to us. They took it upon themselves to contact those communities and find out that they were not charging. So they said for us to correct it or get it straightened out. And that's all I have.
So you're saying we advertised to other communities that are be charging for firefighting to the insurance companies, and they phoned those communities, and that's not their practice?
That's what this individual has said to me.
Okay, well, we'll get an answer to that. Thank you. For their next meeting. Yeah, yeah, I get lots of inquiries every day. People have some good ideas, and the funeral thing I haven't heard too much about, and a couple of people have asked me about it, but yeah, we don't get our funerals paid for. That's really not what happens. We set some policy in how we would deal with it and how you could spend up to so much if a former mayor or a council member was to die and stuff. But our policy doesn't say that. These people that are, or these 2 people that are running around town putting up all these things, they just like to take bits and pieces of what goes on here and represent it in a way that suits their agenda. Anyway, as far as the utility bylaws goes, I've had lots of people contact me, and that's why we're going to take a little better look at how we classify each lot, and we'll do it based on what's fair for every citizen in town. If you think that you shouldn't be pulling your weight or paying your way, and everybody else should carry you, then, but we're gonna be as fair as we possibly can. Changes are being made. The firefighting, most people I talked to didn't have any idea that they had that in their insurance policy, and they phoned. And they have confirmed that they have that in their policy. And why had we not done this earlier? If they have insurance, why didn't we try to utilize that money? So when you explain to somebody, usually if it costs X amount of dollars to put a fire out at a house, it usually takes 5 to 6 years, where the taxes aren't doing anything up the town. All they did was just pay for the fire suppression at that address. So anyway, I would encourage people not to get too involved with some of the lies and misrepresentation that some of these posters are around town. There's access to counsel and admin all the time, and just reach out, ask somebody what the truth is. So that's it for me. Director's highlights. Let's start with Director Saskew.
Thank you, Worship. Since the last ledge meeting in August, finance has shifted focus to budget and year-end preparation. We've spent significant times updating Questica and looking at the 3-year operating and 5-year capital budget requirements for 2025 to 2030. Our administration team is not currently fully staffed. We have accounts payable and finance manager open. The hiring process for accounts payable is underway. The position will be closing on September 6th, and the finance manager position is not yet posted, hopefully shortly, and we plan to have it posted for at least a month prior to closing date, just to hopefully attract and see what kind of candidates we can get. Administration also has a new addition as of today. Zach Mikulich joined us from Parks to fill our vacant summer student hours, and he will be staying with us until at least the end of December, possibly further depending on budget availability. So we do have some spare funds from vacancies we've had this summer, and we are in desperate need of a body to help us today, not weeks from now once the AP clerk is trained. So Zach has joined us, and he's here for sure until December. Hopefully he'll stay on. Maybe we'll find a spot for him. He's almost done school. We've also received requests from the Rotary Club regarding insurance on the new gazebo at the skate park. So that is now complete, and we've received final figure costs from them, and I will add it to our insured items as that's a donated asset to the town. This is on town land, so it's no different than the skate park or the spray park. Other highlights include completion of summer student offboarding, completion of Canada Summer Jobs reporting, which is unfortunate this year. It's a lot of work for not very much money for us, but every year we have to do it. We've posted the accounts payable position. We've worked on classifications of vacant lots in preparation for the utilities bylaw. Preparation for August council workshop was done. Completion of budget schedule for 2025 budget. In regards to some community engagement, we can do maybe some social media posting about when our open budget meetings are. So people, if they want to tune in, they can. I know those are really exciting meetings, but if they want to stay involved, then tune in to our 6-hour marathon and have a say in what's going on. We've added new assets to insurance. We've done recreation cost analysis for the OCL group. I've made a new BMO deposit account for some deposits we've received. I've had a meeting with the library board regarding 2025 budget and other ongoing items with them. And we've done some cross-training of payroll and HR administrator for LAPP and other items that our prior finance manager kept to themselves. So overall, our admin team is doing well, and we're just trying to stay afloat right now with our vacancies.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Director Saskew? You're doing very well trying to stay afloat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I swim good.
Director Lefebvre.
Thank you, Worship. My upgrades, or my update includes upgrades for the forest main and the lift station. Upgrades the bypass pumping of the old main system is now bypassing as they work to replace the main chamber that has the 3 large valves in it that will take it from primary cell 1, 2, or to the second storage. So that's happening now. Most of the 15 splitter valves around are complete, and they're working on the primary cells. I know I'd mentioned briefly before about the type of splitter valves we need on the primaries. It could be up to a 4-month. We've decided to go a different route and put in something that's more available, is simpler, because in all honesty, in 38 years, we've never changed the direction of the primaries. They're gonna go primary 1, 2, 3, 4, facultative cell. That's just how they work. There's no point in having these sluice gates and things are expensive and hard to find. So the price comes down on the replacement of them, and the project stays on track for this fall. So they'll have 2 more large diameter valves to install on the line from the lift station to the lagoon for our bypass pumping. And they're expecting the dirt works, the splitter valves, chambers, everything to be done by the end of September. And we'll allow a week in October for pressure testing. The pressure test is 5 to 6 days. And that's because with the HDP pipe, because it's not jointed, it's welded and it's one long continuous piece. they're allowed a lot of percentage of stretch and flex underneath when they pressure test them, and it takes 5 days when the pressure's added for them to settle down and stop, and then we can see what volume's remaining inside the pipe. So pressure testing isn't 2 hours, it's 5 days. So that'll take us into October. Before that happens, we're hoping in a couple weeks to be starting the valve and the check valves and the components that need to be changed out in the lift station itself in October as well. So far things are coming up. There's a good crew out at the lagoons. They're there every day, so we're getting things done. And we're just sourcing a contractor for the valve and check valve replacements. We have to get another one. The one that originally went with the tender has backed out of the job. It might have been just a lot of their scope. So we're just got another company giving us a price. They are well-known. They've been in business forever. We've used them before. We're happy with it, and we're hoping that they pick it up and go. So that's a bit of it's not a delay because we had to finish the pipe work first, and the last thing to do is the valving. So we're still saying we're on track for being done at the end of this fall. We did the final deficiency completion walkthrough at the Prosperity Industrial Park sewer lift station. So we are done. The long list of deficiencies are now down to an eave trough pipes half an inch too short, things like that, really minors, that'll be done. So we've started unloading sewage into the septic receiving station with our truck. Manager Temptation is getting hold of some private haulers. We'll start hooking them up to see how they like the system, how it works, how easy is it to get onto the program. So we're kind of happy about that, to get this done again, get product in there so that it's pumping a little more. As you can appreciate, the lift station is just running every few days, and I'd like it to do more if we could, because this is our 1-year warranty starts now. So I'd like to see it pumping something. So that's really good news. 51st Ave, the bases are being done on the road. The valves have all been identified. All the connections that are to be made are made. I've got one company business that we're just finishing the hardwiring of the bio pump system, the low pressure sewer system pump. Just has to be hardwired into the building. So that's being done locally, hopefully this week. Base inspections will be tomorrow, Wednesday, probably Thursday, because the road, as you know, that road has a very high density base system. That's why it's standing up to all the truck traffic and concrete trucks and county trucks. So it has to be the same, and we have a third party coming out, do the testing on Thursday to make sure that our base is at that 100% for the full depth. Paving should be Thursday afternoon start or Friday and finished Friday. So we can get that done. The drainage that we're working on with the culvert through, you know what I'm referring to, we were able to drop back, cut the culvert, get more slope, and add about 7 inches of grade onto it, and we've got a slope that now is working. We've done a survey and provided information to the owner so that he maybe better understands, maybe already knows, that part of the lot drains in one direction, part of the lot drains in another, and we can see how that will make things better for him. On the south side of all those businesses, the water in the CN portion sits. We've done some shots on the west side of Saskew Mechanical and realized that we can get in there and clean that up and pull it down some more. So if we can drain CNs down a few inches, that gives him the ability to get that slope heading to the back. We're working to make this problem not a problem, trying to help with some of the drainage issues. So I'm kind of happy about that, and at the same time, the swale that we've designed in to that site will be cold mixed, full length, so it doesn't wash away, it doesn't get gravel and stuff in the pipe. It makes it easier to maintain, and it keeps the grade where it's at, where the engineers say this is where it's got to be to work, and it'll make it permanent. So I know it's been a long time and a problem for a few years or more. So I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel where this is going to be a much better situation than it ever has been. The last one is Coordinator Giles, her project. This is the Riverside Cemetery Bank Stabilization Project. As the project nears completion, what's left is the educational portion, which is part of the Water Resiliency and Restoration Program grant. So this is funding that we've received. Associated Environmental is also proposed in the bidding of the tender to do an educational piece, and we're at that stage now. So we're going to have on September 24th, I will send this information out to everybody. A 9:30 a.m. coffee and project presentation will be done at the Vegreville Suites Boardroom, which was the previous Pomeroy. We're gonna get a bus tour out to the cemetery. We're gonna have a look and an explanation of the technology that we're using, which is different than old stream technology. For sure it's different. And we're going to invite, and then go back to the Pomeroy for lunch and the last Q&A bit about it. Working with Seed Manager, there will be drone and some footage doing a part of this, which again, the grant is paying for this portion, and that will be added to the educational portion. It's inviting the schools, it's inviting county council, town council, because the cemetery is in the county's jurisdiction. That's the Vermilion and the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance groups, anybody that would see benefit in this. And yeah, that's just like the cap of the project. That's to wrap it up and end it up. And Brianne has looked after this from the very first application, and she will wait till the end and we close the books on the final financing. So she's done a good job on this one. I will be sending this information out.
Perfect. And we'll help Brianne clean up at the end. The end of the lunch. Hey, any questions for Director Lefebvre? Good. Thank you, Dale. It's nice to see the 51st Avenue getting done, and it's been a while.
It has been, and I appreciate the patience of everybody down there.
Yeah,
It's been a long time.
Yeah, you know, they started out real good. They just had a problem finishing that company.
Yep.
And I get it, they have other jobs, but. Okay, CAO Ling.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. I also, too, had taken some time off here since the last legislative meeting, but some of the highlights, we reposted our CPO one-term position. The resumes are coming in, actually. It's doing well, and the posting closes on Monday, September 9th. We've been having bi-weekly meetings with Orange Crow leadership. They are the consultants that were awarded the regional recreation feasibility study. They were getting ready for the open houses that are happening on Thursday and Friday of this week. They released a survey for the study on August 28th, and by the morning of August 30th, they had 146 responses. So that's great. That it shows that people are interested. And for all those listening out there, if you haven't filled out the survey, please do. The more information, the more surveys we get, the more information we have to work with. So regarding our pact, the conversations that we've had around this table in the last couple meetings. So I found out that our FCSS manager has been working with the RCMP and the Crime Reduction Partnership Liaison regarding our pact and the needs identified in the community. Unfortunately, with summer vacations, timing doesn't always work. So hopefully now that it's September, this file will start to get more active and we'll have more information coming. And then with elections next year, and the changes that have come into effect with the passing of Bill 20, there is now mandatory orientation for councils when they're elected. So, and the timeframes for all these, for the orientation and everything has changed. So now I think it's, councils all have to be orientated before their first council meeting. So this actually puts quite an onus on administration to line everything up. Been talking with CAO Potter-Porosny over at the county and with the other CAOs in Innisfree and Manville. And the county would like to apply for an ACP grant to help with a regional training session to allow the councils to get together, get regional training for some of the more standardized stuff. So if council thinks that this might be a interesting idea, then I'll bring forth a RCD on Monday to, for your approval or not, so we can hand it over to the county.
I think anytime that we do collaboration with other municipalities in our area, it's a benefit for everybody, so.
Okay, so I will bring that to Monday's meeting, and that's pretty much all I got right now.
Okay, thank you very much. So for everybody's information, recreation feasibility study open house is the 5th and the 6th, both start at 4 o'clock. Is that correct? Both dates?
Actually, there's an afternoon session as well. I'm sorry, just let me pull it up here. Yeah, because there's two, just, sorry, just give me a second here, I want to pull it up.
So Thursday,
So the times are, the Vegreville Social Center will be Thursday, September 5th. They will have a session running from 11:30 in the morning till 1:30 in the afternoon, so over the lunch hour. And then they will be there alongside the registration night, and they will be there from 4 to 6 p.m.
at the social center.
at the social center.
Okay.
And then on Friday, they will be at the multiplex, which is like the Heather Curling Club, or the curling facility, from 11:30 in the morning till 1:30 p.m., and then again from 4 to 6. And they're hoping they'll be able to hit everybody with those times.
Okay, perfect. So is there any other business of council? Seeing nobody jumping up and down, I would like to entertain a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Curtis makes the motion at 5:06. All those in favor? Carried.